Fighting in the Middle East continues as the war in Iran enters an 11th day. The war launched by the United States and Israel has also sent oil prices surging and stunned global economies. For more on this, we head over to the U.S. Capitol, where we are joined by our Washington bureau chief, Jackson Proskow. So Jackson, tell us more about what President Trump is saying about how long the war could last.
Good morning, Miranda. The president is effectively delivering two conflicting messages about how long this fight could go on. Yesterday, in a phone interview with CBS News, he said that the war is, quote, very complete and that the U.S. is ahead of its timelines for how the conflict should unfold. Then a little bit later on, he told a conference of Republicans that the U.S. May have won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. And then there was the afternoon press conference in which he said that you could call the war a tremendous success right now, but that the U.S. could go further and will go further. So very hard to know what exactly he means by all of this, but the Pentagon, in its messaging, along with the defense secretary, have effectively said over and over again that the U.S. has only just begun to fight.
Well, Jackson, this is now the biggest oil disruption in history. How much concern is there about a global energy crisis because of the war?
There's a tremendous amount of concern here. About 20% of the world's energy supply has been disrupted by the war right now. Gas prices in just the United States have risen by nearly that much. We're talking about some of the biggest supply chain shocks since the COVID pandemic. Trump has claimed that these prices have gone up artificially and will come down as soon as the war is over. But more and more countries are now bringing in austerity measures to conserve fuel or to cap prices. You've got G7 nations talking about releasing emergency reserves to try and stabilize the price of oil, which has been fluctuating wildly. At one point, it was approaching $120 per barrel yesterday and then settled down much lower than that after the president came out and spoke. It's incredibly volatile. The point is, producers in the region are saying that they cannot ship right now because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. And there, too, there are conflicting messages from the president because the president has urged carriers to continue sailing through the strait. He also threatened to destroy Iran as a nation if it blocks shipments or attacks ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That said, though, that is not easing up the flow of oil at this point, and there's a tremendous amount of concern that if this drags on much longer, this will ripple through the global economy and through global supply chains.
All right, and Jackson, there have been a number of casualties in the war so far. What more have we learned about that airstrike on an Iranian girls' school and who may be responsible for it?
Yeah, and to remind our audience, this strike happened on the very first day of the war, and at least 168 children were killed in that strike. There is mounting evidence that it was an American missile or American strike on that school that is what caused this. The president has again issued conflicting messages here, initially telling people and repeatedly telling people that it was done by Iran. Now there is video evidence that has been obtained and analyzed by multiple sources that shows what appears to be an American Tomahawk missile hitting an Iranian facility directly next to that school at the very start of these strikes. And that is leading to mounting evidence that, yes, unfortunately, it was an American strike on that school. The Pentagon says it is investigating. Trump continues to suggest that it could have been Iran that obtained a Tomahawk missile, which is virtually impossible because only the United States and a couple of allied nations have those missiles and the ability to fire them. Later on yesterday, Trump ultimately said he would be willing to live with whatever the Pentagon investigation ultimately finds into this apparent tragedy here at the start of the war.
All right, Jackson, thank you so much for that update. That is Global's Washington bureau chief, Jackson Proskow.